Yeah, this video is going to suck, ladies and gentlemen. Not going to lie to you. Now, not all these players will be plummeting down rankings. A few of these guys I just want to talk about and say, take a chill pill. It's going to be all right. But on the other hand, we have some players that look very concerning. Now, starting off with a couple of guys that I think you need to take a chill pill on. Everything's going to be just okay. Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, obviously were horrendous this past week. This was an offense that I don't even think cracked 150 total passing yards. This was an offense that had 3 total points scored against the Green Bay Packers. And yes, if you started Kupp, which I told a lot of people to start Kupp, and I am sorry, you're disappointed with only 6.8 fantasy points. If you started Puka, you're disappointed with only 6.2 fantasy points. Now, in reality, going forward, should this be what we expect, right? Because now this is back-to-back weeks. You go back to the Dallas game. Hell, Kupp gives you only 6.1 points. Puka gives you only 7.3. So you're going, oh my gosh, this is a 2-week trend here. Kupp and Puka horrendous. Guys, come on. Super simple. There's a very easy explanation about this. Yeah, the games where Matthew Stafford was healthy and the games where Matthew Stafford was not. Okay, so if you look at the timeline for the Rams here, should be just fine. They have a bye week this week, which is the perfect timing. From everything that I read just from like fantasy doctors on Twitter, sounds like Stafford will be good to go coming out of the bye. So Stafford's going to be good to go coming out of the bye. You don't need to be worried about either one of these guys. Now, going over to someone else that kind of fits in a similar boat, I was surprised to see that people were throwing a fit in the premiere for our video Sunday night about Jaylen Waddle, saying I ranked Jaylen Waddle too high in our rankings this week. What the hell are y'all talking about, ladies and gentlemen? Yeah, Waddle doesn't give you a great game. Gives you about 8-9 fantasy points against the Kansas City Chiefs. There's another very simple explanation behind this. Just in case you didn't watch the game, I'm sure everybody here did. But yeah, Jaylen Waddle got hurt. Jaylen Waddle was in and out of this game. If you actually look at the amount of snaps that he ended up playing, Jaylen Waddle played 34 snaps out of a potential 63. He ran 21 routes in comparison to Tyreek Hill at 34. And with Jaylen Waddle, do we think that's going to be the case going? No, of course, Jaylen Waddle's an every down player, okay? Cedric Wilson is not ahead of Jaylen Waddle on this depth chart. So yes, it was disappointing, but similar to what you have with the Rams here, perfect spot in that you have a bye week for the Dolphins coming up this week. So Jaylen Waddle should get the full week off. Then hopefully we can hit the ground running in week 11. I think nothing's changed with Waddle. I mean, it's crazy to hear people trying to clown on us for Waddle when literally 2 weeks ago, the man had 12 targets, 121 receiving yards, and the receiving touchdown. Just got hurt, okay, ladies and gentlemen. Now, going over to someone that is extremely frustrating, and I drafted in 11% of my drafts this year. Our explanation behind it was we interviewed him at the draft. I went to the University of Texas. Hook 'em Lawrence. I love my guy. Bejan Robinson is someone that, of course, I'm very biased with. We've said it all along. I'm a Texas Longhorn. Saw this guy at the gym in Austin. Love the dude. Bejan Robinson has been very bad in fantasy. I've consistently ranked Bejan Robinson too high, and this is someone that we need to move down our rankings. Time and time again, Arthur Smith shows that he is going to use other running backs at the goal line. He'll freaking use Jonnu Smith at the goal line. I am convinced at this point that Arthur Smith, who's just battling it out with the fantasy football community, not only in press conferences, I think that he's taking this over to the football field, and he's really, I don't know, sabotaging our fantasy teams intentionally, even if it means sabotaging the Atlanta Falcons at the same time by giving freaking Jonnu Smith carries at the goal line. We don't need to talk about it, but with Bejan going forward, the realistic question that we need to now ask is, can we start him? Right? That's where we're at. And I think the answer to that question, like I said, I'm very biased. Hook 'em Lawrence, we interviewed him in the draft. Love my dude. Is undoubtedly yes. With Bejan Robinson, if you're going to go through, if you're going to look at all running backs this season that have had 35 targets or more this year going into this week, or 90 or more rush attempts, the running backs that hit this threshold include Christian McCaffrey, Travis Etienne, Josh Jacobs, and Bejan Robinson. Now, 3 weeks back, super frustrating against the Bucs, where he gives you literally nothing. He has the headache game. I mean, I think we're all going to be remembering that for quite some time. But if you remove that game outside of that one contest where clearly he just wasn't healthy, He's had double-digit carries every single game. And at the same time, he has gone out there and he's averaged about 5-ish targets per game as well. So despite us needing to move him down our rankings, I don't think we can move him outside of like being a top 24 running back. He has to be a startable guy. If you're telling me he's averaging 5-6 targets per game, he's getting double-digit carries every single week, minus the one headache game where clearly he just should have sat out. So lower him down expectations. I think he's not close to being an RB1 anytime soon. I think that while, yes, it's extremely frustrating, we're still probably going to have to start him this next week. Now, going over to another running back that's, back-to-back brutal matchups here. Back-to-back very disappointing games. Got to talk about Kenneth Walker. Now, as I pull up what Kenneth Walker's gotten for us over the past few weeks, let me remind you, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you play fantasy football. And if you're excited for the game tonight and want to check out any of those pick'ems over on Underdog Fantasy, I'm looking at Keenan Allen for more than 6.5 receptions and pairing that up with Justin Herbert for more than half a total yard. You can find that link to Underdog in the description, comment section. Promo code FLOCK, 100% deposit match, plus our rest of season fantasy football rankings and tiers, and that Justin Herbert special pick'em, more than less than half a total yard. So make sure you take advantage of that. But here with Kenneth Walker over the past 2 weeks, a couple different things that have been frustrating. One, you have Kenneth Walker seeing fewer than 10 carries each game. And two, you have Kenneth Walker with almost no role as a receiver. Kenneth Walker in these games has been outsnapped by Zach Charbonnet, has been out-targeted by Zach Charbonnet as well. And we need to ask ourselves, what does the situation look like in Seattle going forward? Is this now a spot where Kenneth Walker is no longer startable and that you have to go through and you have to say, okay, well, nobody's startable? That's not the situation, ladies and gentlemen. The situation I think that we can safely say is in very bad matchups, Kenneth Walker is someone that maybe we can't start. And the reason being is Zach Charbonnet is clearly the passing down back, right? If the game gets out of hand, we saw it with the snaps this week. Zach Charbonnet will see every single snap on third down and every single snap in the 2-minute drill. So Kenneth Walker, when the Seattle Seahawks get blown out 37-3 against the Ravens, is going to have a disastrous day. It's just going to be something we have to deal with. Now, the issue of this going forward, ladies and gentlemen, is if you look at what you have from the fantasy football playoffs for Kenneth Walker, or let's just skip by the next 2 weeks. Next 2 weeks, fine games against Washington and Los Angeles. But then after that, you have the Seahawks playing the Niners, the Cowboys, the Niners, the Eagles, the Titans, and the Steelers. I wish I would have been smart enough to just listen to y'all a couple weeks back, because we had a lot of people smarter than I was out in live streams going, Mason, I think we should sell Kenneth Walker. His schedule's about to get tough. Mason, let's sell Kenneth Walker. His schedule's about to get tough. And I'm riding off the high of Kenneth Walker, 105 rushing yards, consistently seeing 3 targets a game. I'm like, no. We're not selling Kenneth Walker because of this guy. Now I think at this point, once we've realized really what this Zach Charbonnet usage is going to be in these game environments, when there looks to be a decent amount of these environments going forward, we have to lower our expectations with Kenneth Walker. Clearly cannot sell him now. I think you have to hope that you have a good week against Washington, and then you can hopefully sell him next week. Now, going over to Zay Flowers in this same game. Zay Flowers has been very disappointing. Zay Flowers this week, 11 receiving yards. Zay Flowers the week prior, 19 receiving yards. And full transparency, ladies and gentlemen, I did not draft a lot of Zay Flowers. In drafts this year, I had Jordan Addison, Jackson Smith-Njigba, and Quentin Johnston all ranked ahead of Zay Flowers. Obviously, I wish I could take that Quentin Johnston ranking back. I wish we could put Flowers there. The reason being is typically when you see players stay all 4 years at the wide receiver position in school, it does indicate that they're going to have a lower hit rate at the next level to at least find that elite level ceiling. So full transparency, I'm not a big Zay Flowers guy, but honestly, I think that if anything, this is a buy the dip opportunity with Flowers. I'm not too concerned. I think he proved himself earlier in the season that we were probably wrong. Zay Flowers probably a very strong wide receiver at the next level. This game against Seattle is very much an outlier in that it was 37-3, not a real football game, right? The Baltimore Ravens had 300 rushing yards. And the week prior, while he only had 19 receiving yards, which is very frustrating, he did go out there and he led the team with 7 targets as well. Now, going over to a player real quick that you should be full-blown panicking on. I mean, if you viewed him as an every week starter, Zach Moss is someone that I think we all can agree at this point. He's just Tyler Algier, right? That's what we were saying all along with Jonathan Taylor coming back. It's looking a little iffy for a second, but it's a running back that you're never really going to be excited to start. And instead, you're just going to be looking at a premium handcuff back that does have a role from a week-to-week perspective that if we really needed to start him, we could. If you look at Jonathan Taylor this week, Jonathan Taylor goes out there, plays 75% of the snaps in Indianapolis. Zach Moss is on the decline. Zach Moss this week had 7 carries, 26 rushing yards, and 0 targets out of the backfield. Now, going forward, like we said, nothing's too different. Just understand, don't lock him in as an every week must-start player. He is someone that if you were desperate for a start due to bye weeks, then sure, you could possibly throw him in. But you still do want to roster him down there on your bench because if Jonathan Taylor were to go down, then obviously we've seen that Zach Moss will be a top 10-ish running back in fantasy. Now, our last guy we're going to talk about here will be Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen, very disappointing game. Bryce Young has multiple pick sixes. Bryce Young has 3 interceptions overall. And Thielen just gets you 6 targets, 5 receptions, 29 receiving yards. Ultimately, I don't think too much changes with Adam Thielen. DJ Chark gets the touchdown, but Chark's usage is going down even in games where he is healthy here. If you go to Adam Thielen's profile, he's had 76 targets this season, right? So he's averaging about 10 targets per game. I mean, I'm going to reiterate, I don't think he's wide receiver 1 rest of season by any means. I think instead you need to be viewing him as that high-end wide receiver 2. But the target volume is still consistently there. That's not necessarily what's going to be holding Adam Thielen back. It's more so just this offense and the fact that Adam Thielen's not going to be a super efficient wide receiver, right? I mean, at least this point of his NFL career, in my mind, I don't think that's what we should be expecting. But I think that's all I have for y'all, ladies and gentlemen. If you have not done so already, please go down there, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you play fantasy football. And of course, if you wanted to check out that pick'em over on Underdog, more than 6.5 receptions for Keenan Allen, you can find the link in the description, comment section. Promo code FLOCK, 100% deposit match, plus our rest of season fantasy football rankings and tiers, and a Justin Herbert special pick'em more than less than half a total yard as well. But I think that's all I have for you. Again, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. I really do appreciate you, and really hope I get to see you out in the live stream later tonight.